Pasco. I'm with the firm of WGI, the Watman Group. We are the city's program managers for the entire citywide all four district roadway program. Four districts in the city coinciding with your commission districts, and there's a district engineer for each district. So we have four consultants that are doing the plans, et cetera, in each district. And you have Kimley Horn here tonight, who I will bring forth when I get done with some generalities here, who are the District 3 engineers, and they will take you through where we are with the Year 3 project. We started this about less than 18 months ago, and we're in Year 3 already, so it's moving right along. All of the Year 1 and Year 2 projects are under construction. Many of the Year 1 projects are now coming up on completion. So I'll talk about the website in a few minutes here, but we have the ability now to hopefully get some before and after pictures up there. And I think if you go on the website, once those are posted. I'm sorry.
Where was it located, District 1?
District 1 is the southwest portion of the city. Yeah. So I think once we get those pictures up there, you'll be able to see some dramatic improvements for the program. Just a couple of generalities. What we're going to do tonight, I'm just going to give you a really quick rundown on the bond program, the road program, how some of the priorities were established, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kimley Horn and Marwan Muflis here. Kimley Horn, I'm going to let him introduce his staff when he gets to be his turn. And then after we get to that point, they've taken you through where we are with the project right now. We're going to open it up to questions. We'll answer everything that you have. Brian Shields is with us tonight. He is the city engineer / public utilities director, so he's like the man with the plan. And then later on, towards the end of the night, we're going to give you an opportunity to give us an idea of what your priorities here among some options that we have available that we may want to work into the design to solve some neighborhood or street segment specific issues that you have. So that's how we're going to do it tonight. Appreciate everybody coming out. Just real briefly, the program, as I'm sure you're aware, it's a 4-year bond program. It was passed by referendum November of 2016. And $40 million to do roadways throughout the city. The roadways segments were selected based on a study that was done prior to the bond referendum. And it sampled all of the roads in town, all the segments in town, and based on the evaluated condition of the roads in each segment, they were assigned what we call PCIs, pavement condition indices, excuse me. And 0 is the worst, 100 is the best. So based on the amount of dollars available in the bond, a PCI of 60 was selected for segments to be included in this program. That's about as far as we figured that the $40 million was going to go. So that means that the PCI in any segment was between 0 and 60, it was going to qualify for the bond program. Anything above 60, 61 and above, will not be addressed within this 4-year bond program. However, the city is shifting priorities from what they've been in years past, and they are starting to dedicate more annual funding towards street maintenance and reconstruction. So, and they're also looking at grant funding of various types and sources to try and catch up with the rest of the needs of the city. So, Year 1 was the worst roads. Year 2 was the next worst road. So we're getting into Year 3 now. And you're probably looking at your street and saying, well, that looks like a 3 to me. How come it's only in Year 3? The other thing that factors into the priorities of the roadways that qualify for the bond program in terms of which year they're in is how the program itself interacts with the city's other capital programs. So many of the segments are not necessarily, while they are bond segments, the road condition probably would push them into maybe Year 3 or Year 4. But in Year 2, the city's capital utility program might have had a major water expansion down that road. So in the interest of only having to go in and interrupt the neighborhood and rock everybody's world one time to do everything that road needs, we would advance the road with maybe this in better condition so that it would correspond with the year where funding was for whether it might be drainage or water main upgrades or the occasional sewer problem. So for that reason, you may look at a road that is not being done yet versus a road that's in a program and say, well, this is in better condition than that. That's generally the reason for that. That means that there's probably some utility priority going in that sense. Okay. That said, I think I'm going to turn it over to Marwan now. Marwan Muvla is with the firm of Kimley Horn, and I will let him introduce the staff and take the training.
Thank you, Dick. Appreciate it. Good evening. I'm the project manager for Kimley Horn, working for the city on the roadway program. What we have here for you are exhibits that I'm just going to give you a general idea of what we have here, and then I'm going to ask my engineers to come up here and give you a little more details about the project. What we have on the left here is the speed study that we did early on from the very beginning, from first year. We sampled some of these roadways, the colors that you see are the roadways that we sampled. And we put some speed markers out there so that we can tell what's the engineers call the 85th percentile speed, which is the basically speed that you collect and you decide that that's the speed that we're going to design the street for. These streets are typically, the speed limit on them is 25 miles an hour. The numbers that we show here is the 85th percentile from that speed study, which is the speed that we would look at and say, okay, it follows the speed limit, 85th percentile follows the speed limit, or it exceeds the speed limit. So for example, this here is North Lakeside. It shows 27.1 was the result of that study. So it's 27.1 miles an hour. So it's slightly over the 25 miles an hour. So that got the color yellow. Yellow means that it's between 25 miles an hour and 30 miles an hour. Green means it's 25 or under. And you see a few of them that are green. And then red, it shows that it's over 30 miles an hour. And you can see a couple of these streets. Now for year 3, we're basically in this area, like North Lakeside. We, based on that study, don't see any speeding issues. Now, of course, residents that live there may have a different perspective, especially if you see one person that happens to be, late for something and trying to hit 45, 50 miles an hour. But that's how these engineering studies are done. So that's what this graphic represents. This is taken from really our design plans, and it's just a cross-section of each of the roadways that gives us the width of the right-of-way, the width of the traffic lanes, the width of the sidewalk. So it's a little more detail in case somebody wanted to know about those dimensions. This is the overall year 3 aerial that shows you the projects, the streets that are within year 3. And the colors here, anything that's colored, is basically part of year 3. And we listed these in the agenda that you have in the table. Each one of these cells, each one of these rectangles basically has the name of that street and the limits of that street. Some of them are the north-south that you see here, Lakeside, and then some of them are the east-west. Red means that it's roadway-related improvement. When we get into other colors like black and blue, it means that there are some, the blue is for water main work that Sam's going to talk about, and the black is for some drainage improvements along those roadways. This exhibit, you may have seen it before, is the potential enhancements that we want to get your input on. We have up on top is the streetscape potential enhancements, and below are traffic calming related enhancements. And at the end of this, we'll give you the dots so that you can tell us, what's important to you on your street. Well, now I can ask Nick Clavello is one of our engineers who had worked on the roadway improvements, and then Sam Graybill will come up after him and talk about the roadways that had some water main related improvements on it.
Thank you. Good evening, folks.
So I'll break it down road by road, just to tell you what's going on in each of them, what type of improvement we're proposing. So on 10th Avenue North, we're proposing a milling and resurfacing from Federal Highway to North Palm, with some selective curb and gutter replacement. On 11th Avenue North, we're doing a milling and resurfacing from North O Street to North Lakeside with some stormwater improvements between North O Street and North Palm Way. That would be like some inlet replacements, some ways to improve the drainage in that area. Now on 12th Avenue North, we're also doing milling and resurfacing from North O Street to North Lakeside Drive. In this area, North J Street, we are doing milling and resurfacing between 16th Avenue North to 17th Avenue North. We're not touching the curb or sidewalk, seems to be in good condition. Now, North J Terrace, we're doing milling and resurfacing between 13th Avenue North and 14th Avenue North, as well as between 15th and 17th. We're leaving this section out, the section in front of the church. Now that will be all milling and resurfacing with some areas we're filling in, like the sidewalk gaps, and do some improvements in that area. Now North Palm Way is a full pavement reconstruction with valley gutter being installed on both sides. And that will be from 13th Avenue North to 16th Avenue North. Now on North Lakeside Drive, we'll be doing milling and resurfacing from 16th Avenue North to 18th Avenue North. Then pavement reconstruction between 18th Avenue to Wesley. That will include some improvements on Wesley. And then from Wesley to Duke Drive, there'll be some selective sidewalk improvements, like filling in sidewalk gaps and those areas. Now on Duke Drive, between North Federal Highway to North Lakeside, there'll be some sidewalk gaps we'll be filling in up to that point, but no roadway improvements. And then from Furman Lane to Holy Cross, there'll be some stormwater improvements to fix the drainage issue right at the corner here on Holy Cross Lane. And then to go along with that, there'll be some milling and resurfacing from Furman Lane to the end of Holy Cross Lane. And Sam will go over the utilities improvements and other stormwater improvements.
And so as Marwan and Nick mentioned, I'm kind of in charge of the water mains and portions of the stormwater design and improvements that are going to be happening in this area. So my little niche is over here. So if you look here, so right here between Wellesley and Notre Dame Drive, we're doing some water main improvements. What we're doing is we're taking the water mains from the rear easements of all the properties there, moving it to the front part of the street. What that's going to mean is that your water meters are going to be relocated to the front part of your yard. Your house connections from the water meter to the house connection, that will also have to be moved. However, your house connection does not have to move. What's going to end up happening, this will impact you in that your yards and driveways may be slightly affected by some work that's going to be happening by the contractors that are there. Good news is that once everything is reconnected the way it should be to the front part of the street as opposed to the back part, the contractors will come through and restore everything to in kind. So it should be as like they were never there. But this water main is going to continue. It's going to connect down here to North R Street to make sure that the water connects down there. And then it'll connect to the existing over here on Notre Dame Drive to make sure that nobody loses service. There will be a slight loss of service during this construction when your services are moved from the back of the yards to the front of the yards. However, those will be done during times of minimal usage, so you should hopefully not receive any sort of disruption. You will receive plenty of notice on what day that's going to happen or a range of days that this may happen, so you should hopefully be well prepared. As Nick mentioned, there's also some stormwater improvements that are going to happen on these streets, on Wellesley and then North 18th Avenue. We will be redoing the stormwater outfalls that go to the lagoon. We've noticed that those are in some shape that needs a little bit of help. And in some of these cases, especially over here by Notre Dame Drive, we've noticed that there's been some severe ponding during rain events. So what we're going to be doing is we'll be upsizing these lines as well as redoing the seawalls that these outfalls come out to. So make sure those are nice and reinforced. It's going to not only help with the larger size, it'll help with the amount of water that has to flow through there, and hopefully you guys will have nice dry streets. To kind of wrap everything up on these streets, we're also going to be doing a mill and resurface from Wellesley Drive all the way down to Notre Dame, and then from 18th Ave all the way out to North R Street, and then from North R Street between 18th and Wellesley. That way the whole area looks pretty good. On these areas, there will be some slight sidewalk and curb and gutter improvements where there's cracking, but it won't change from what's there currently. Yes.
Other question. Are there any water changes happening on North Palmway?
No, sir, not in this. Not
Okay.
this.
The second question is to the people who are getting their water meters moved. Is that going to be subterraneous boring, or are they going to dig a trench through their yard?
So it'll depend, I think, on what the kind of how prices come back.
Okay.
Depending on what's there currently in each yard, I mean, in some cases, the open trench may be okay. In other cases, there may be lots of vegetation, and they would need to take that into consideration. What we will do prior to is we'll probably be looking at each of these residences and be talking during prior to them going out after the contractor's been selected, and just make sure that, whichever way it ends up going, we're kind of accommodating them. So.
Thank you.
I wanted to add one more thing. On North Lake Drive, all the way up to Wesley, we're also filling in some sidewalk gaps. I forgot to mention that. And when we're doing that, we're keeping in mind, your property, the lots, we're looking at each one.
When you say filling in sidewalk gaps, do you mean making one continuous sidewalk?
Yes.
That's okay.
I have a question. When they did that early study, I know that the one block, and that's the block I live on 12 North, between O and Palmway, was to be completely redone because the sub layers are gone and shot. And I noticed that was mentioned in this.
The pavement.
12th Avenue North?
Yeah.
Between O Street?
Yeah, O and Palmway, just that one block had been recommended for complete reconstruction. And is that still on the plan or not?
It's now showing up as milling.
Now it's showing up as a milling resurface.
What?
It's showing up as just milling and resurfacing right now. We'll go back and look at it. We'll look at the PCI number and the pavement cores that were
Well,
taken.
I lived there, so, and I remember that from it. And, if
A lot of the decisions about the types of road rehabilitation are based on the testing and analysis of the testing and the sampling with the road cores. We have a lot of cores done at certain frequencies all the way down through the pavement, the asphalt base and the subgrade, so that we can determine, not only the condition of the surface coating of the road, but the level of stabilization or structural support of the base and the subgrade.
yeah, I understand that.
So that's the basis on which and also the type of material as well. Whether there's an underlying strata of compacted sand or shell rock, whether it's concrete, we find a lot of concrete based on that as well. Yeah, don't ask me. Anyway, that pretty much determines, when we go into the project and get into the design process, what we're going to show on the plans as being milling and resurface, or what we're going to show as being a complete reconstruction, or in some cases, we will use what's called a cold and place recycling process, which is a relatively new technology that actually it does the same, it performs the same function as a complete reconstruction, but it does it in a much shorter period of time. It's a train of machines that go down the road. I always try to explain this to people, like when I was a kid, I used to see the cartoons of the cartoon character driving this piece of equipment down through the desert, and out behind him there was a road coming out from behind him. It's kind of like that. It's an interesting thing to see.
Kind of cartoonish.
It's a very long cartoon. Usually they can use that, and they can, and that puts down a firm layer of asphalt, and then they'll come through and put a final lift on top of that. But it's an interesting thing to watch, because they could, the total reconstruction on a block could take, a month or better. They can, once the flat work and the concrete work is done on the block, if it qualifies to do a cold in place recycling, they can run the machine through there and have it done in a day. So it really is, and it saves money and it saves time, obviously. So that's one of the processes that we use. But a lot of times what happens, I hate it when it happens, is the contractor will get in there and he'll start digging on the road and he'll find out that there are things down there that the cores didn't tell us were down there, because we take cores maybe 2 on a block. We don't go down every 50 feet and take a core, it's too expensive. And sometimes in between those cores, they will excavate and they will find things that cause us to go back and rethink how we're going to rehab the road. Sometimes it's concrete base, that we will see. The cores will show us little areas where there's concrete, and other cores will show shell rock. And when the contractor goes in there to mill off the asphalt, thinking he's just going to do a mill and resurfacing, he finds that the asphalt that he's leaving is sitting on top of concrete and it's not sticking to it. So when that happens, it changes the whole process. So to answer your question, it just, we start out with, based on the testing and analysis of the samples that we got, hopefully that tells us what we're going to end up doing, but every now and again it will change.
It also is based on a visual inspection. We all went out there, we looked at the pavement cores, we looked at the original study and the recommendation, and looked at the existing conditions and came up with that recommendation. But we will relook at that.
And a lot of the roads in Lake Worth years ago were what they call microsurfaced. Yeah. Those guys running around selling that all over the county years ago. Basically what it did is painted the road. But it's responsible for a lot of the roads looking like they do today. So if you go down south, a lot of the streets in Lake Worth, and you will see this kind of messy looking surface where it's faded and it looks like it's peeling and everything. That's the microsurface. Doesn't necessarily mean that the underlying roadway is not stable. So and there are many areas where the testing and analysis showed a very good PCI for the street, although it looked like that because of the microsurfacing. Questions?
Can we vote?
Questions? Come on, we need more questions.
When is the project going to start?
Year 3 projects, our goal is to have them bid ready November-ish. By bid ready, I mean we're either ready to award the contract to one of our push-button contractors, that would be just roadway, no underground, or actually have to bid the project to a competitive bidding process, which takes a couple of months. So the goal is to try and be able to hit the ground in January.
And how long completion for?
How long will the project take? Depends on the size of the project. And some projects, it varies from year to year and district to district. It depends on how many segments, it depends on how many utilities are going in. Right in year 3 in District 1, we have really heavy water main installation, so that's going to take more time. But in other areas in District 2 and year 3, we don't have a lot of segments, because a lot of them were done in years 1 and 2, so it's going to be a shorter period of time. None of them are anticipated to take over a year.
But this segment, I don't care about District 1 or District 2.
This segment, like how long that is.
When will construction start on these roads and when will it stop?
Well, again, our goal is to start in January. Okay.
January 19th.
January 2019, yes, year 3.
January 2019?
Yes. As far as the time length of this project, I would say at least 7 or 8 months, based on what has to be done. But we'll narrow that down as we get to final plans and specifications. We'll give more specific, definitive information on what we're doing.
You're talking about everything to be done in 7 or 8 months.
That's right.
So let me, I don't know if this might sound, when you get to a specific street, you're going to give those tenants a heads up, like we're coming and starting the construction on your street next week, etc. Yes?
Yes.
And are you able to predict how long each particular individual street will take, depending on what the work is? So for instance, if you're coming up to Palm Way, are you able to tell the tenants on Palm Way, hey, we're starting Monday, 8 a.m. on your street, and it's going to take a week and a half, we'll be there every day from such to such? Because I'm just looking out for the pet's interest. So if I have to if it's gonna take 2 weeks, maybe I need to relocate my dogs because we got big bay windows and they're just gonna be going nuts every single day, you know what I mean? So,
The answer I would like to give you is yes, absolutely.
no, of course.
The answer I'm going to give you is the reality of the construction industry, okay? We get very specific schedules from the contractors when they're awarded the projects. And we issue a notice to proceed, they take off on the work, they give us a sequence of construction so we know where they're going to start, where they're going to work from, and to the sequence of segments they're going to do. So they go to work, and then all of the activities they have to do, most of these contractors are going to require subcontractors on some level. If it's a road contractor, he's probably going to require a concrete subcontractor. If there's utilities involved, he's going to require a utilities underground contractor. All of those things have to come together schedule-wise. You get into the project, especially this time of year, okay, because it's the rainy season. These projects, the ability to get this work done is very weather dependent this time of year. So schedules can slip. If we get a week's worth of rain, they only may get 1 or 2 days worth of work in. So if they go and tell you, if they send out their notices and they say, well, we're going to be here from day 1 to day 4, and they don't get started till day 2 because it rains, that stretches it out to day 6. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that as an adult, you would know schedule, there's changes in schedule and rain. They weren't there for 2 days in a row.
But it's frustrating.
But are we getting, my question was, are we getting some type of notification?
Yes, absolutely.
I haven't spoke to anybody in the other blocks that have already had construction, so I don't know how it's going.
You will be getting, contractors all have a standard format that they've been provided. It's trilingual, English, Spanish, and Creole. And they will be passing out door to door those notifications. They've been told to do it, at least 24 hours before, preferably 48. Sometimes we have to kick them in the butt to make sure that they're doing that and giving you adequate time. It gets frustrating. A lot of the phone calls that I take from residents have to do with those notices because they'll get a notice and they'll make sure that their car's off the road the next day. And then for some reason, whether it's weather or whether it's the crew that was supposed to be there got stuck on another segment or another project, had a problem and couldn't get over there that day, for whatever reason, he doesn't show up that day. So I get calls from residents saying, well, I couldn't park my car here because they said they were going to do this, and now they didn't do this, and when can I park my car? So it gets confusing and frustrating, but unfortunately, it's the nature of the construction business. And we try and keep people as current as possible and maintain schedules as best as we can, but that's just something that we have to deal with. Yes, sir.
What kind of oversight is being done on the quality of the work that they're leaving behind?
Our district consultants also have what we call CEI services, or someone called CMS, it's construction inspection. So they have an inspector out on the project. They usually get half-time contracts, so 4 hours a day. The city augments that with their own project manager and utility engineers for underground utilities. So there's constant oversight.
What I'm noticing is some finished streets in my neighborhood, which is around the church on North J Terrace. They're finishing up about a half an inch below the original grade of the street, which is leaving the concrete curb of the gutters a half inch above the road bed, which is causing puddling.
I don't know that they have the final estimate.
Also at the church that we're speaking about on North J that goes to K Street, they haven't made any openings so that the patrons of the church can get out onto K Street. It's totally blocked. So they're right now only able to take North J Terrace. They can't get back onto K.
We're aware of that.
So what we're concerned about is we're owners right there next to the church, but our neighbors are like AutoNation. They have 5 and 6 cars. Where are you expecting expecting all these people on that one street to be able to park their cars when even the people at the church don't have enough parking?
Okay. Let me address the church first. Unfortunately, it was an oversight on the plan. It called for the replacement of a type F curb, which is a raised curb all the way across there. The fact that there were 2 turnouts, access points for the church was missed. So the contractor went in, he put that piece of drainage in, and he poured that curb. And we became aware of it, and they've got to go back and cut that out and put the drop curb in the valley gutter to allow to reestablish access to those that parking lot. So that's going to happen. As far as when you get a notice that says that you need to have your car not parked on the street for whatever day.
So we're looking at only one day?
Okay, whatever days.
Thank you.
Okay. That also confuses a lot of people because when we composed the notification form, we knew we had to be trilingual about it because of the diversity in the city. But at the same time, we didn't want to be looking at the expense of having every notice that every contractor would have translated. So we tried to make it a fill-in-the-blank checkbox type of thing. So it's probably a little more generic than it should be, and the contractors they're checking boxes and putting times in there. Sometimes they leave the times out, it's confusing. But when you get a notice that says that you can't park your car on the street for the next 2 weeks, okay? That doesn't mean you can't park your car on the street for the next 2 weeks. That means probably they're coming in to demolish the sidewalks and curbs, or form up for the new curbs and sidewalks and pour them. They don't take up the entire street while they're doing that. Number one. Number two, any restrictions that you get on those notices are only during working hours, which are 8 to 6, 5 days a week, per city ordinance. So the contractors are obligated to, if they've interrupted access on any level, whether it be driveway access to your home, or whether it be access down the street that they're working on, they're obligated to restore that at the end of every workday. So if you get those notices, what they're saying is they need to have your car off the street while they're in there working, okay, so that they can do the work they need to do. The city unfortunately does not have a plan for each segment in each neighborhood that we can tell people, well, this parking's available over here and this parking's available over here.
Or close the church so that all the overflow?
Yes. So, yeah, it does get a little confusing in that respect. But just be aware that if you get a notice like that, it doesn't mean, we had one contractor put out a notice, I had to call him on, put out a notice actually in District 3, saying that you can't park your cars on the street from 7 o'clock tomorrow morning until the project is done. You can't imagine the calls I got.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When is the project gonna be done? So, yeah, I always have to explain to people, and I've been trying to take advantage of it in these meetings and share with your neighbors that, what those notices mean. And unfortunately, they are fairly generic.
So by 6 o'clock, we should be able to park in front of our homes?
The only thing that may cause you a problem of an overnight situation is if they are pouring concrete, okay? Because the concrete takes a good 24 hours to cure. So they're going to ask you not to drive. If they've just poured a sidewalk in a driveway or in front of your driveway, they're going to ask you not to drive over that until the next day.
And you'll make sure that K Street is accessible for the people at the church and so forth before you start this.
Contractors have already, well, that project should be pretty well done before January, before this starts.
We're keeping our eye on it.
That church you're speaking of is my church. You're very soft-spoken, so I don't get half of what you're saying.
That's all right.
But do I understand that you don't have a drive going out into K Street? Because when I do park in the parking lot, I have to make a U-turn in my parking lot to get out onto onto J Street again. I cannot go to K, but I didn't realize there was a curve there. I know you've got all the orange thingamajig standing there.
Yeah.
You mean that's a curve? You didn't make it into a drive?
Yeah, correct. It was an oversight on the plans. It was an oversight on the plans.
A real oversight, because there are two driveways going in there.
Yeah, and he's going to go in and cut that curb out, and he's going to fix it for you.
You're gonna do
I
that?
know
so
this is a
everybody-
different meeting topic, but I've called and I've emailed. I'm on the 200 block of North M Street, and our construction started the first week of May, I believe. And I got one of those notices that said you can't park here from this day forward, and it was fine, I didn't misunderstand it. But leaving my sidewalk in my front yard, I have a 2-foot gully to the curb, so there's a space this big from the end of my yard to the curb that just got laid. 2 feet deep that I have to step over a string that's laid in my front yard. It's been 2.5 months. I've called and I've emailed to get updates. I don't have them. What the workers are telling us is the crews keep quitting, and that's why our road isn't finished. I don't know whether or not that's true. That's why I'm here, because I can't get calls or return emails.
You don't
But
want- you
it's
don't want to
been-
talk
let me
to the
finish,
workers,
please,
unfortunately.
please, because it's been 2.5 months. When I look at lakeworthroads.com, it says that our road's not going to be finished till the middle of September. I fortunately have a place that I can park at the church on the 200 block of North Federal. So it's not that big of a deal, except for the safety issue that there's a gully off of my front yard, but it's 2.5 months.
Let me ask you a question, and yes, that's an enormous period of time. We've been working with the contractors on that because that particular one on M Street was very long. It went from basically Lucerne
To 10th Avenue, which is
well,
great.
it went to Wellesley, actually. I'll tell you.
I just care about the 200 block
But,
and the gully at my front door.
that will be getting paved, they've told me, next week.
Well, they came to my door Tuesday and said that they were paving, and then we haven't seen them since.
Again, I know. The pastor at Sacred Heart up there has me on speed dial. So yes, I understand what's going on there. They did have some rain delays because their paving contractor had some rain delays. That set them back a couple of days. But their current schedule calls for them to be paving from 4th to 2nd next week. That's my latest information. Now, if the excavation for the sidewalks or the curb are causing you an access issue, they need to restore that access. If it's your walkway from your home, or whether if it's a driveway, yeah, they're obligated to restore.
So what they've done is when they pulled out the sidewalks, they dug trenches and then they laid the curb. So where the sidewalks were, there's now literally holes this deep. There's a lady who lives across the street from me who's in a wheelchair. She can't get out of her house. She has to have her family members come and take her out of her house. I fortunately am somewhat healthy and I have teenage daughters. You know, we're somewhat healthy. My dad can't come to my house. My whole street is that way, that there literally is an area this wide and probably 2 feet deep with a string to pour the curbs or the sidewalk or whatever. That's been that way for a month. I get, please,
The lady
I
across the street,
understand
if you will, before you leave, if you'll give me her address, I will address that.
I'll ask her to do that.
Please.
We'll get about that tomorrow.
I understand, like, the workers have done a tremendous job, and they're respectful, but 2.5 months is crazy.
Yes.
So next week, we should have a
We've been
road?
counting on the contractors not to get so far ahead with their demolition, ahead of their restoration. And
I mean, it really is
getting
just
better
the
at it.
safety issue of not being able to walk out of my front gate.
Understood.
So next week?
That's what they tell me.
Sweet, thank you.
Okay.
I live on 1500 and the Chittias on the corner. I don't remember how long ago when they did Noche Diaz, the street is higher than 1500. When it's raining a lot, the water will start in front of my house on the corner because it's lower there and it cannot go, it's too dense on Noche Terrace. The water will start there. So especially when I have to wash up the sidewalk. I have a long sidewalk. The water will stop there. I will have to have a broom or something to push it hardly to go to the dam because it's lower. And so this time I was happy that I thought it was going to be even or easy for me, but it's the same way. The rain, it wasn't raining a lot. The water was right there. If it's a lot, it will stay there until there is a lot to go up. It has to go 15, not if is higher than 1500. So I don't know if there's another coat they're going to put on 1500 or if it is over.
Yeah, where exactly is this now? What is?
15, I live on 1502 North Terrace, on the corner.
Sea Terrace?
It's right next to the church.
North of the church. Yeah, no, they've just got a first course of asphalt down there now. So there's more work to be done. There's a little side work to be done. And at that particular corner, I think that's where some of the drainage went in that area, 15th.
No. That was on K Street, they put K drainage in, which is right at the other end of First Street.
Okay.
No, 1500 North J Terrace.
We will take a look at that. And yeah, that's right on the other side of K where we're working now. So if we didn't, I think on 15th, we just stopped just short of the intersection there. So this project will take up from that point on J Terrace and go north. But having been aware of that, we'll certainly look at addressing it.
What happened? There's a curve. So they made the side of the street the same height and the curve, and it is low. So
Yeah, it's about 3/4 of an inch below grade along right in front of her house there, where the old road that used to be. So if they're gonna put another surface on.
They are, yeah. Like I say, they just got the first lift down there.
That should help.
So it'll help. But again, we will take a look at closer look at that.
If we were looking at changing out the driveway to make it like a circular driveway, is that something we need to look at permitting before, or is that something that
If you have a permit from the city for a driveway connection where you don't have one now, what would the apron in your plan? If you come out to the contractor on the street, or if you call the city and say, I'm planning to put a driveway here, can you give me an apron? If you don't have a permit, we can't do it. So again, the whole key there is having a permit to do it.
All right, so even if the driveway's not technically there yet, if there's a permit for it,
I had a question about North Palmway, the sidewalk. So you guys said you're going to fill in the gaps. So your plan is to put a sidewalk, when you say fill in the gap, completely, or?
Where there are existing sidewalks that have gaps in them, we will fill in the gaps.
All right.
That doesn't necessarily, by filling the gaps, I don't mean we're going to put a sidewalk on every street in the city.
Okay, so if there's one house on the block that has a sidewalk, you're just going to leave like the other 5 houses the way it is?
Depends on the circumstance.
What if everyone on the block doesn't want the sidewalk?
Exactly. Of course, these are decisions that the city will make. They will give us direction on this, but I will tell you that the object of this program is to improve the condition of the roads, and it's not to change the character of the neighborhood. So we are sensitive about some of the streets that have a definitive character, that we don't want to destroy that.
Yeah, it's case by case. Sometimes there's a lot of vegetation that's come out to the edge of the pavement, so we'll leave that alone. But we'll work with the homeowners, knock on your door to find out, is it able to move some landscaping? Is it able to take some trees down, etc. But we'll work with you. But the goal is to have connected sidewalks. And it could be one side of the street, it could be both sides. It really depends on the predominant pedestrian.
He said not on North Palmer.
Section.
Not that section.
13
You can look at to see if you're going to have a
There's no sidewalks, no sidewalks.
Right, so it is case by
13 to
case.
16, no sidewalks.
Yeah, at the end of this meeting, go up and take a look at the drawing.
So again, that's what Brian was referring to as, it's got to be visual afterwards.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? When you do your contracts, are you putting a limitation on when the demolition can be done relative to when the construction contractor is available? So so we don't get something demolished and then it just sits, and like happened on M Street?
Yes, we learned our lesson. Took us 2 years to do it. We are going to start putting requirements in the construction contracts, probably along the lines that the contractor can only have X number of blocks, whether it's one or two, probably no more than two at a time, under demolition before he finishes it and moves on to the next one or two blocks.
Now, but you have two different contractors, demolition and construction.
Well, it's all
And
under
I'm
the
talking-
contract.
Yeah, but
There's one
someone has to have a control in there so they don't do what they did.
Yeah, well, that's the prime contractor's responsibility, it's in his contract. So
It's
he's
in his contract.
it's in his contract, the GC, and he's responsible for his subcontractors.
But I'm aware, does it always happen?
Raising his hand very much.
Just a few quick. That's a good point to bring out. Like North K, there was quite a period of time between the storm drainage contractor finishing and the road really beginning. So, but regarding notices, I'm in that gap, Orchard Terrace, that's done.
Right, it's right behind the church.
So are we gonna get notice? Because I think I saw some people passing out stuff, but I think they skipped our block. They just did it to the, I guess the affected, just the, which, I mean, obviously common sense we're affected because that's our primary access.
Is there, do you guys have like a neighborhood association?
We have Eden Place.
And do you have officers in the meeting and things?
Yeah, we do. I'm not sure how.
Because one of the things that we.
Each place meets at the church.
Right.
Yeah.
Routine.
Yeah, we can give notices to the association, or we can place them at the church.
Or can we make sure that they just notice the few houses on North Terrace and the.
Again, what happens is the contractor prints out the notice and puts the information on there. He gives it to his superintendent. His superintendent gives it to the supervisor. The supervisor gives it to the guy in the piece of equipment. The guy in the piece of equipment gives them to the guy with the shovel and says, go hand these out over there. So that unfortunately.
That takes care of that. The last segment, last block, Orchard Terrace, was, when you look at it, it looks the same as the rest. Is that going to be a four? Is that not going to be done because it's the 1800 block, Orchard Terrace, between 18 and 12? North Terrace.
Terrace, not straight.
Yeah, it's right there.
It might be year four. I don't, off the top of my head, I'd have to look. Or it might just be one of those roads that looks horrible because it was microsurfaced and it's required. But I can check my schedule with the office.
Where can we reach you guys?
Okay. Speak up. We have a website. The address is www.lakeworthroads.com. If you happen to lose that, but you know the city's website, which
Roads
is
with an S?
Roads with an S. If you know the city's website, lakeworth.org, there is a link on the top corner that will take you to that.
Lakeworth Road.
Yeah, we'll take you to that website. So on that website, you have two options to contact us. There's a hotline that you can call. It's not live monitored, but you leave a voicemail, and those voicemails are collated a couple of times a day, okay, and sent to me. Or you can leave an email, and the email, there's a formatted email you can fill in, put your comments on there, what your issues are. That, when you click on that and you send that, that comes directly to my inbox. So either one of those ways is an opportunity to get in touch with me. Again, I'm the program manager for the whole shebang. I will not always be the one to respond, depending on what your issue is. If it's something that the contractor can take care of, or if it's a scheduling issue, I may ask the contractor's project manager to get in touch with you and explain what's happening to you, or if it's under construction and you have broken irrigation that hasn't been fixed in a week and your grass is dying, I may forward that to the contractor and say, go down there and get the irrigation fixed. They've been pretty responsive so far like that. But one way or another, you will get a response. I don't know what happened to the lady who was back here from Main Street, because that was such a good one. But either way you do that, it eventually ends up in my inbox.
Great. Thank you.
We're gonna pass out the dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
One person or what?
Each person gets three dogs. And you select your top three.
Can we put all three in one place?
Yes.
You'll see. First time you would anticipate.
Civic thing ever. Oh, as far as improvements go, okay. And I was wondering, are we going up there with a pen and marking? So those who speak on
This space is good. I mean, staff, how do they know? So they have.
Yeah, so if one street really wants to become, the other one really
This
doesn't.
tends to kind of.
you're not going to get a sidewalk, so I can leave my fence there.
Better lighting.
Things like that, because I saw where they work on the sidewalk, they have to basically go beyond the sidewalk.
So what we're gonna do is, what they're gonna do,
We better not.
everybody gets three.
Lay down all this gravel and do this, they're gonna come there and tear it up.
Even though we did this study, we know that a lot of people just have to fight through. We want to do our part to kind of calm that down while we're in. No, so we're using this project. So you guys are like, I don't want to be very safe. It's awesome. So you can go through it up. And then anywhere we feel like there's some decent we will be implementing that particular document. Okay, that makes sense. Yes.
The city's been pretty responsive. The city's been really responsive in working with the residents.
How are you? Good. Little by little.
So you gotta listen to everybody.
I would give it last actually. We would rate it under drain. It's pretty good.
Well, maybe it's very
down here.
so he's still, everybody's worried about
M Street's really good. The end product is
No, I tell my neighbor because I think she's and then
This project is we'll just go through it too. You too.
You just
right here.
Some of the road construction, you can cut through a third to go public. Yeah, and it's like crazy. I was thinking the hedges are nowhere near It's just a gutter, yeah, it's just a gutter.
Right on that corner, poles been hit a couple times.
That's where you want to I'm waiting for an email.
We're the one with the yeah, I mean, well, remember, like, so we got right in this area here.
Which is very nice.
I'm sorry, right now. Right out there. For your house.
Yeah, that's good. The land and doing this business shop. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Nick. Why do you get so quiet?
Why is your elevator road be in this building?
I'm not sure but it's been spotty. It's been on and off.
Yeah.
Which is your question, sir? So that is a great idea. You have to work this on. I do. So what we're talking about with here, so we have design right now. This is when you're on road, and kind of see how much. Well, we can continue to buy those. But they're gonna. Yeah, we're gonna go to yeah,
Take some space.
Busy down there, but
Then we know what's really. First study is just based on driving.
Here.
And if it changes in the field.
It kind of extends down to my neighborhood. Sometimes I can't even like cut the grass.
Putting in asphalt, 10 feet back in the out, the dirt, being dragged out.
It's always.
Once a week. Well aware that. Again, thanks for coming out.
And then, where's
I did.
and that's where.
That's mine.
That's where North Terrace. Across the street there.
Thank you, but very much.
Right, that's where you're keeping
I'm trying to make sense of the issue.
Oh, is that the fancy house? Yeah, right there.
I'm sure it's beautiful. Of course, you guys have green.
Yeah.
So somewhere over here, speed limit
That's the upside to my not being able to
covered
get
by,
the field very much.
flowering.
Spend most of my time speed.
So there's a speed limit sign over here, but it's covered. Yeah.
It does a good job at grabbing all the vegetation and everything. It gets it down, but once it gets there, it doesn't quite get to the drainage.
I'm Bryce.
I think there's one right here, yeah. So it's really.
They're green. They're like cut out, but they just don't get there. They wash with free down, but they don't get to that green.
Unfortunately,
Right about here where there's a lot of.
no, that's fine.
So we'll see what happens.
We're actually side by side neighbors.
Is that on this part of the road or the other?
No, the next one.
Oh, okay.
Next one, the next one. Mark that around.
Are we learning something?
Thank you very much, Nick, I appreciate it.
I guess the overall.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What's going on my streets?
Thank you very much, thank you.
Schedule 2 weeks and I'll go to Alvarado. Okay. But I gotta have schedules right now.
Yeah.
You got room for me? You got room for
What, how can I serve?
Or I'm getting one. We just
Maybe a year.
Hey, I have kids. I have college. Y'all have kids. I don't have kids. Yeah, but they're kind of, yeah, those are more kids.
This one's Miller, so I know it's just for construction here.
Okay, so that we would be able to take by the end of every day probably.
Yes.
Okay, so which no driveway?
She's right here, we're right here.
So it looks like what we have.
So that seems like minimal impact. I like it.
Take it under consideration for all of the count.
Full repavement. Over on, the new part of whole thing.
How about sidewalks?
Meeting, we're gonna go, they're gonna put another layer on it.
That should help keep the green.
Go up there, it's like it's gonna
So they have a couple of corner houses.
existing. This guy would indicate proposed sidewalk.
Somebody commented.
Big lot. If I'm also,
I can't remember the block. They don't have sidewalks. They're lots.
Well, the thing is, and the reason we said local neighbors,
this area actually has.
I go right in.
So, yeah, if I